Something unusual is stacking up in the sky today, Aquarius, and almost no one watching this will realize just how many moving pieces are converging at once. A slow, structural planet is testing one of your closest relationships. A fast-moving moon is stirring sudden chaos into your day. And a love planet just crossed into a completely new territory of your chart. Individually, each of these would be worth talking about. Together, they are telling one story, and by the end of this, you will understand exactly why today feels the way it does. The bigger picture. Let us start with the biggest structural shift, because it has been building for a while. In Western astrology, Saturn is currently transiting through the part of your chart connected to cousins, siblings, and neighbors, the people in your immediate, everyday orbit. If that relationship has recently started to feel like a maze of barricades and heavy barriers, you are not imagining it. Saturn does not ask politely. It applies pressure until something honest surfaces. This transit often corresponds with a slow, sometimes uncomfortable process of seeing yourself clearly through how someone close to you responds to you. It rarely resolves quickly. But evolutionary astrologers describe transits like this as soul training. The friction is not punishment, it is reinforcement, building psychological bones that are built to last. At the same time, something lighter is happening. Venus, the planet of love and beauty, has just entered Libra and moved into your ninth house, the zone of travel, higher learning, and expanded perspective. This is a completely different energy than the Saturn pressure. Where Saturn asks you to endure, Venus invites you to wander. New ideas, unfamiliar cultures, a course you have been curious about, a manuscript you have wanted to publish, all of it may suddenly feel more attractive than usual. Now, here is where the day gets genuinely layered. In Vedic, or Sidereal astrology, Tay's moon is positioned in Aries, and that placement is associated with a noticeably restless, unpredictable undertone. Astrologers describe this transit as one that can make ordinary situations feel like they are going haywire, particularly when personal matters and professional matters accidentally overlap. So while the Western picture shows you a long-term structural lesson through Saturn and an expansive invitation through Venus, the Vedic lens is flagging something much more immediate, a short, choppy patch of unpredictability layered right on top of it. Both are true simultaneously. That is the real shift happening today. You are being asked to hold long-term growth and short-term turbulence in the same hand. Love. Bring that expansive Venus energy into your relationships, and things start to open up in a very specific way. Whether you are single or attached, the invitation right now is to stop drawing tight lines around what love is supposed to look like. If you are unattached, this window, which many astrologers place as active roughly through September 10th, favors staying open to people who do not fit your usual mold. Different age, different background, different life philosophy. If something sparks, the current energy suggests it may be worth exploring rather than dismissing. If you are partnered, this is a beautiful stretch for reconnecting through shared learning rather than routine date nights. A weekend workshop, a class you take together, even a spontaneous short trip, anything that expands your shared horizon tends to land well right now. Long-distance connections also feel less like an obstacle and more like an adventure under this influence. But take a breath here, because this next part matters. Later today, a Sun-Saturn trine forms, a supportive angle in traditional astrology between vitality and structure. This aspect does not kill the romance. It tempers it. It is the difference between falling in love with an idea and actually checking the departure time before you book the flight. The practical whisper underneath all this Venusian excitement is simple. Enjoy the spark, but do not skip the details. Career. That same tension between expansion and grounding follows you straight into your work life. The ninth house Venus energy we just talked about does not only apply to romance, it applies to professional growth too. Teaching, publishing, cross-cultural collaboration, or pitching a bigger vision than usual may feel unusually appealing today. If there is an idea you have been sitting on that involves reaching a wider audience, this is a supportive stretch to start shaping it. However, remember that restless Vedic moon we mentioned earlier. This is precisely where it tends to show up most sharply in the blurry line between your personal life and your professional one. If a colleague brings personal drama into a work conversation, or if your own emotions bleed into a task that needs a clear head, today rewards catching that overlap early rather than letting it snowball. A calm, steady approach between roughly 2:30 and 4 though in the afternoon is considered especially favorable for tackling anything that actually matters today. And this is where the Saturn thread from earlier quietly resurfaces. If your career ambitions today involve a family member, a sibling, or someone from your immediate circle, that ongoing structural test may still be coloring the dynamic. Patience continues to be the more useful currency than pushing for resolution. Money. Financially, today does not call for bold moves, it calls for steady ones. Even without making a major investment like real estate right now, your financial foundation is described as fundamentally solid, largely because of consistent, sensible budgeting rather than any single lucky break. That is an important distinction. The stability many Aquarians feel around money currently is not about a windfall. It is about the quiet discipline that has already been in place. This connects directly back to the Saturn lesson running underneath the entire day. Saturn rarely rewards shortcuts. It rewards structures you have already built. If your finances feel steady despite everything else feeling a little unpredictable today, that steadiness is Saturn's slow-cooked payoff, not a coincidence. Health. Here is what makes today genuinely worth paying attention to. All three of these threads, Saturn's endurance test, Venus's expansive pull, and the moon's unpredictable static, are ultimately asking you to do one specific thing: regulate your nervous system before you make decisions. Most people watching a horoscope skip past this part. But this is the actual mechanism behind everything else described today. When your inner state is calm, the Venus opportunities look like invitations. When your inner state is frazzled, the exact same opportunities look like chaos. Practically speaking, if you have recently started exercising, increasing your protein intake is a simple, grounded way to support your body through this more demanding stretch. Beyond that, a calm mind is repeatedly emphasized as the single most useful tool for the day, not because the challenges disappear, but because a steady nervous system lets you tell the difference between real urgency and Aries moon static. On the subject of traditional remedies, some Vedic practitioners may recommend Saturn-related practices, certain gemstones or mantras for individuals whose birth charts specifically support them. This is not universal advice. Gemstone prescription in Vedic astrology requires a full personal chart analysis, and it should never be treated as a one-size-fits-all solution for every Aquarius. If a color association feels safer and more accessible, yellow is highlighted as today's supportive shade, a small, low-risk way to align with the day's more grounded currents. Home and family. This is where the Saturn relationship test becomes most visible in daily life. If tension has been building with a cousin, sibling, or someone in your immediate circle, today may bring another small round of it, perhaps subtle, perhaps sharper. Rather than trying to force resolution, the more sustainable approach is patience paired with honest self-reflection. You may have noticed that this particular relationship keeps mirroring something back to you that you have not fully processed yet. That is not a coincidence. That is the whole point of the exercise. At the same time, there is a gentler thread running alongside it. Reaching out to a family member you have not spoken with in a while is favored right now, almost as a counterbalance to the harder Saturn work. Perhaps you have realized that not every family relationship this week needs to be difficult. Some simply need attention. Travel and spirit. Travel is where nearly every thread from today quietly converges. That ninth house Venus energy makes travel feel unusually restorative right now, almost like a psychological reset button. If a trip, even a short one, is on your mind, the current energy suggests it could offer a genuine sense of peace rather than just an escape. Picture it like standing at a crossroads where two roads diverge, one paved and predictable, leading nowhere new, the other winding out toward the horizon, unclear but alive with possibility. Today's astrology is nudging you toward the second road, at least in your imagination, if not in your itinerary. Creative work also flows unusually easily under this same influence, so if you have been circling a project, this is a supportive window to let it move. And this is where the Sun-Saturn trine we mentioned earlier deserves one more mention. Spiritually, it is less about restriction and more about maturity, the ability to hold a big, romantic vision of the future while still respecting the practical scaffolding underneath it. That is not a contradiction. In Hellenistic tradition, this kind of supportive angle between vitality and structure is actually considered one of the more stabilizing gifts a chart can receive. Lucky signs. For today, yellow stands out as your supportive color, echoing the grounded, structured undercurrent running beneath the day's more expansive energy. The window between 2:30 and 4 in the afternoon is considered especially favorable for tackling anything that genuinely matters, whether that is a conversation, a decision, or a piece of focused work. Compatible energy today tends to favor open-minded, curious company, people who enjoy conversation about places, ideas, or beliefs rather than small talk. Today's guidance. So here is where all of it lands. You are being asked to hold two very different energies at once today: the slow, character-building pressure of a Saturn transit working through a close relationship, and the wide-open, horizon-expanding pull of Venus inviting you toward new people, places, and ideas. Layered underneath both is a shorter, choppier undertone from the moon, one that rewards a calm nervous system over a reactive one. None of this is about forcing an outcome today. It is about noticing which energy you are responding from in any given moment, the anxious, haywire pull or the grounded, curious one. Choose the second whenever you can. Keep your personal and professional conversations separate where possible. Reach out to someone you have been missing. And if an exciting idea crosses your path today, let yourself enjoy it. Just check the details before you promise anything. That is the whole art of today's sky. Enjoying the expansion without losing the ground beneath your feet.